I received a phone call from a stranger who strongly advised me to tell my wife not to apply for a job. Now, this sounds very threatening at first, but I can assure you the call was not threatening at all. And this is a story about the importance of employer branding. Now, employer branding is something that some people describe as fluffy. Topics I work in are often described as fluffy, employer branding, culture. And I find that a little bit offensive, but it also just shows a lack of understanding of the topic. So to illustrate this, I want to tell this story. A few years ago, or rather, many years ago, when I first moved to Finland, one of my first jobs was in a company based in Helsinki. And I went for lunch one day with a group of people. Some of them I knew, some of them I didn't. And the topic of conversation got onto me and my wife, and someone asked, "What does your wife do for work?" And I explained, well, she's looking for work and she actually has a telephone interview tomorrow for company X, we shall call. And then, lunch finished, everything was fine, and I went about my day, went home that night. And in the evening, I got a phone call from an unknown number. And it was one of the women that I was having lunch with who I'd never met before until that day. And she said, "Hey, Matthew, we met at lunch today and you were telling the story about your wife having this interview tomorrow at company X. I just want to tell you that I don't think she wants to work there." And then she went on to tell a story of her friend who used to work there, who left recently, and how stressful and chaotic it was and the way they treated her friend and all the staff there. And she thinks actually that the job my wife was applying for was her friend who was leaving the company. And so it was, like I say, not a threatening call. It was like advice. It was just a heads up. This is not a good company to work for based on what I know, is what she was saying. Now that in itself is a red flag, but it also consolidated a view I already had, because when my wife told me about her interview several weeks before, she opened up the website and I took one look at the homepage and I also said to her, "You don't want to work there." I used to design websites, I used to manage websites, and not many people know this, but you can tell a lot about a company based on their homepage. It was just void of personality. It was just products, prices, sales, reductions. And it reminded me of a company I used to work for that was just like that. And it was not a nice company to work for either. So I had said this already. I don't think you want to work there. I had a phone call from a stranger saying, "I don't think your wife wants to work there." Obviously, this is my wife's decision, but she did the telephone interview just to try it anyway. They offered her the job, and based on the feedback